Good afternoon, Pete.
Appreciate you making some time for us this afternoon. Now, before we get into the rest of the cabinet, I just got to ask you this because there's some question about this now. I'm getting some feedback on it. Is there a requirement legally in the province right now for the Attorney General to have a law degree?
You know, to my knowledge, and I've been wondering about this myself, to my knowledge, you do not have to be a law degree to be the Attorney General, but I'm not certain about that. I mean, in the past, you know, typically it's been a lawyer, and but I'm not so sure it's a necessity. I can see where obviously it's a benefit to have a lawyer, but in this case, I mean, we still have a lawyer, you know, within caucus, and if it's obviously if you ask this question because of the appointment of Minister Manning, we still have Felix Collins there as a lawyer who is available.
Right, and if he was going to go outside, again, the suggestion is made that one of his rivals in the leadership race just happens to be a lawyer as well, and perhaps that might have been, or maybe that was even considered, I don't know. But I'm just looking at an appeal, the result of an appeal in BC that was sent to me where they challenged it, and it came out that, at least in that jurisdiction, you don't have to be a lawyer. I don't know if that has any ramifications for other jurisdictions in the country.
Yeah, no, me either. Not so sure. I mean, I can see where the benefits would be to have someone with a law degree there, and I think, you know, if you had that option in front of you, that is one you should choose. And, you know, quite frankly, you know, in this case, Premier Davis had that option, and he decided not to exercise it and went outside his caucus.
So what of his appointing Judy Manning, and the fact that not only does she take over as Attorney General, but is responsible for public safety, which is essentially or includes justice now, and some other important things as well, fire and emergency services, status of women, etc. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, so where we are, we're in a situation right now where we have a premier who has been, you know, chosen by a convention with less than 400 people who supported him, you know, to be the next premier of the province. And here we go. He goes outside of caucus. He looks around caucus, I guess, first and says, well, I don't have anyone there in my backbench that I feel that I can bring forward to, you know, fill this cabinet seat or this new position, this new department that I'm about to create. Looked around, didn't have the confidence in anyone behind him, and so he decided to pick, you know, Minister Manning to step forward and fill this department. And really, what happens next? It's really, I'm astounded to hear that she's not willing to run in one of 3 pending by-elections that will be called by the Premier. You know, historically, you know, what's happened, we've had, you know, this reaching outside of caucus is unusual, but, you know, it's happened in the past. But to not run in a by-election is definitely unusual. We don't know when the election is. And, you know, when I think of what could happen, if you go back just 9 months, we could have questions that will come to the floor of the House of Assembly, and we have, about status of women issues in the province. There will not be a minister that will be accountable to the floor of the House of Assembly. No minister will be available to answer questions in the House of Assembly. Likewise, if we had to go to a Dardanelle situation like we did in January, well, the minister responsible for fire and emergency services will not be available. And crime and justice issues, same thing. The minister will not be available to answer those questions on the floor of the House of Assembly. And Pete, just to put this in context for you, the Department of Justice right now in our province has the most number of employees with any department. Second would be Transportation Works. So this puts it all in context. We don't know when the election is. We could be over a year if we listen to this Premier right now, and we could have an unelected minister in that position for over a year.
If he was determined to go outside for whatever reason, the selection of Ms. Manning as his choice, is that acceptable to you, or as qualified as anybody you can think of?
I don't know. Miss Manning, have no idea. I've never met her to my knowledge. Have no idea who she is. I mean, so that's a decision I guess the Premier, you know, can make. I guess we also, when you look at it, you know, let's think about this. So you look back and there's no confidence in your caucus. Yet, on the other end, this is a Premier that's saying, you know, this is a government that I'm leading that is doing great things in the province, and I'm asking you to support them. Yet, you do not have confidence in the same people that you're asking the rest of the province to support. So It's kind of ironic that there's no one in his backbenches that he felt confident, he had the confidence in to step forward, yet he's asking people in the province to have confidence in the same group. I find that ironic.
Okay, aside from that then, I'd just like to get your impression of the new departments, or the new combinations of responsibilities that he's built into departments. We've got seniors and wellness, and then we've got business, tourism, culture, and rural development. How do you feel about those combinations and the people who are at the top of that of those departments now?
Well, the new Department of Seniors and Wellness, I mean, I have no issue with that. I mean, whatever it takes to make these, to heighten the awareness of seniors' issues in this province, I believe that to be a good thing. And, I mean, I've worked, as many people in this province already know, I've spent a lot of time working with seniors in my past. So, I believe we do whatever we can. This Premier has decided to create a new department. And by the way, he's added another department to government. We've now gone from 14 to 15, and plus the Premier. So, no issue around the seniors department. Now, will it be an impact? Let's hope. It's not about the name on the door. It's about the outcomes. What is it you can produce? Can you actually have an impact for seniors? That's what's important to me. And as an opposition, we will continue to press to make sure that happens, of course. I guess the rolling in of tourism into the Department of Business, I mean, I think that we'll see. I mean, I have not spoken to anyone within H&L yet, but I'm guessing there that, when you put such a focus on revitalization and rebuilding our economies in Newfoundland and Labrador, tourism always becomes, one of the things that gets mentioned. So if you're really going to put a focus on it, I believe we need to put a stronger emphasis on tourism rather than, putting it into another department. So again, we'll see where this goes and see how it all unfolds. But for me, it's more of an emphasis on tourism that I would like to see happen, because I do believe that it would be a key pillar of our revitalization of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Does putting it in with business give it a little bit of extra focus and importance? Or
yeah, I thought about that. I mean, we've had a lot of discussion as we've been preparing for the next election. I can see where there's some advantages to doing that, giving it a bit of a focus, but we have to be concerned, too, about the regulatory piece of it. We also know, though, the IBRD here in this particular case, obviously the Premier was not satisfied with the work that was done in that department. So, I guess time will tell this all unfolds of these shakeups. But one thing you can't do is rebrand, an old, tired government, which is what this Premier is trying to do. But just by making some name changes, the people are the same, Pete. No matter what happens there, you can shift the names on the doors, and which is what's been happening here in many cases. We've seen a revolving door of many ministers, and in fisheries, as an example, health and community services, municipal affairs. So we've seen just really different ministers, but it's the same people that are just, going through those doors. So I really don't see anything new here at all. It's just the same, tired government.
No surprise, I suppose, that Mr. Kent ends up being not only Deputy Premier but Minister of Health as well. I mean, that would be one of a very few number or different departments that you would expect him to land in, right?
Yeah, well, most people, I think, will look back at this and remember the convention floor. This it seems was the starting point of all of this, where the decision was made by, Steve Kent to support, Paul Davis. And I think most people will read into this that this is really payback for the decision that he made, back on the leadership floor.
Quick change, though. It wasn't all that long ago. Mr. Kent was, looking for a cabinet posting of any kind, and now he's right up at the very top. Interesting how things go. I do have to ask you, how important is it for the new Premier to do more in terms of the Humber Valley Paving, the Auditor General's report? You've called for a judicial inquiry. Does that have to happen, and does it have to happen immediately?
Well, the reason why I did that, Pete, and I must say, I put a lot of thought into that, because I don't just, like calling for judicial inquiries unless there's a very good reason to do it. And in this particular case, I mean, the AG went through an extensive review of the contract and the events that led up to the decision to actually cancel the contract, which, subsequently led to the release of the bonds. So when the AG reported and still was left with many questions, many unanswered questions, I guess, in his mind, there's what's the next step? And, for me, is we need we need to get those answers. So the logical next step for me would be to call a judicial inquiry. I understand, Paul Davis has said that he's not willing to do this. We've got a letter gone to him, asking for this judicial inquiry to be put in place, outlining the reasons why it should be done. So if he decides not to do this, what I would like to know, as part of his open government initiative, how is it he's planning on getting those questions answered? You can't just add the AG to this extensive piece of work, be left with unanswered questions, and no mechanism in place to get those questions answered.
Is it possible through a judicial inquiry that any individual could be culpable for more than we think at the moment? I mean, if the province is seen to have lost substantial amount of finances here, is it possible for somebody to come out with charges in the end?
I don't know. I guess anything is possible. What I do know is when I read the AG's report on this, he said that there was no operational reason why this contract needed to be terminated. No operational reason to do this. So if that wasn't the reason, what was the reason? Mm-hmm. And the AG couldn't answer that question. So if it takes a judicial inquiry to answer that, well, I think the people of the province deserve to know what that answer is. And
while it was within the authority of the Minister of the Department to make this decision single-handedly without informing the Premier or Cabinet, at least as far as we know, that still doesn't necessarily make it right, does it? Especially if there is a fallout and proven losses, should that be the case?
Absolutely not. I mean, this was a minister that was, in that department for about 6 months. A minister that was elected in 2011. And I think most people find it difficult to believe that, within that small circle, that there wasn't some conversations that was happening and someone wouldn't reach out to get some advice on this, significant decision. It was a $19 million decision that was made here, mm-hmm. and made in really 7.5 hours. We've heard some comments, since yesterday that there's been other discussions that the AG didn't report on. We know that the Department of Justice was involved. We also know that the reason why, according to the minister at the time, the reason given to cancel this contract was because he wanted to get the contract completed on budget and on time. Well, you're 0 for 2 in that area too, because mm-hmm. it's not completed and it did cost more money. It was around 21%, 20.6% increase, another $1.5 million to be paid by the people of the province, to get this contract completed. And it's not completed yet, according to some of the reports out of Labrador today. There's about 30 kilometers left to do on this contract. So, the on budget, on time, you didn't get what you're looking for there. There was no operational reason to do it. By canceling the contract, releasing the company from its bonds, what you did was take off the table all the other options that you had available to you. I think we need those questions answered.
Are you prepared to say today that should the current Premier not call for a judicial inquiry and you are successful in the next general election, will one be called then?
I'm saying today I would not have been asking for this if this was not something that I was prepared to do. Mm-hmm. We need to get those questions answered, and that's the reason why I'm calling for the judicial inquiry. Someone in my position, if I was Premier today, and I've said this, I think Premier Davis, in order to, just clear the air on his own premiership, early days, he should do this. He himself should want to see those questions answered.
Okay, but if you're not Premier today, but should you be Premier a year from now, you would still...
Absolutely. If I was in Paul Davis's chair today, I would do this.
Okay. All right, sir, listen, I appreciate this. We'll talk again. Lots more to come, no doubt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. Bye-bye.